Vietnamese have the best drinking culture. Their heels won't puncture the things. So I have these like 5'2" Vietnamese ladies out in the middle of the jungle wearing high heels that I brought out with me. Like at some point or another, every bartender is going to get that humbling moment. What the industry lacks in, I would say 95%, is there's intention and authenticity to it and thoughtfulness. I'll be there for 6 months, and then we're doing the Austin Sports Club with Kevin Durant.
Whoa.
You go. Still got it.
I hit the spot. Sitting here with David English, on his way to Austin for your new job title. I know some of the people watching will know a little bit about your history, but I'd like to know, David, where are you headed? What's going to happen in Austin, and a little bit about how you've been around the world bartending, and now you consider yourself sort of retired, but still in the industry.
Retired bartender, yeah. I don't get behind the bar like as you would like. My main focus, I write a lot of menus, do a lot of development stuff. Was in Vegas on and off for 10 years. Went overseas for a little while. I was out of the country for almost 6 years in total. Never came back. Came back to the United States in 2020. Came back to work with Corey Harwell down at Carson Kitchen as part of his development team. I had never opened a restaurant before. He basically called me and he was like, hey, I'm doing some expansion stuff. Would you like to come help? And I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, I'll just cut you a check and you get to go build restaurants. And I go, I have no idea how to do any of that. And he's like, well, I'll teach you how to do it. And I'm like, yeah, 100%. I'll totally move back for that. So I moved back and worked with him for quite a bit of time. Went up to go see family and be around. My dad was getting older, and you know, as your father does, and you want to be around family as they kind of progress in age. All my family lives up in Seattle, randomly, all at the same time. We're from Florida, so it's like quite the opposite.
That is contrasting.
Yeah. So moved up to Seattle to be around family for a little while, and went up there. Randomly met a guy who worked in Vegas. Up there, his name's Jin Lee. He was over at, he actually worked for Nicole Brisson over at, for Mario Batali's group for a little while, and saw my resume, interviewed me for like a GM job. I was just trying to get my foot in the door, like didn't know anybody up there. Chatted with him. He goes, you're kind of overqualified for the job. And I go, I'm just trying to, you know, figure out what I'm going to do while I'm up here. And he goes, well, just come meet. So I met him, and then I met Brian Clevenger, who owns General Harvest restaurants up there.
Okay.
I flew back a couple times back and forth while I was here, met him, went off to work, and then, you know, opened, 5 restaurants in 14 months. Wow. Did all the cocktail programs and the wine programs with them. It was great because it was a very small executive team, so there wasn't like, you know, a beverage director. We had 8 restaurants. We probably do somewhere in the vicinity of like 10, 12 million a year. And it was just like me, culinary director, and the owner. So wore a lot of hats, everything from washing dishes and mopping floors to, you know, high-end like financial kind of derivative stuff, and learning about, you know, kind of like budgeting and forecasting and all that kind of stuff. Then, so this gets kind of going backwards a little bit. I went to college for 9 years. Didn't get my degree.
I was gonna say, and you're a doctor in what?
Chemical engineering, actually. So my spreadsheet skills are through the roof.
Okay.
That'll come into play later in my career. But so I was living in Tallahassee, Florida. I went to Florida State, big party school. Was bartending at like 7 different bars, 7 nights a week. And one of my managers, his name's Eric Kemp, actually moved out to Vegas to open the SLS hotel when it opened up.
Okay.
He was part of the nightlife crew that kind of did that. They came over, like that company came from LA, had like a lot of really big heavy hitters in the LA scene and that kind of stuff. When they came out here, they had really big I don't know if were you here when that opened?
Well, when SLS opened, yeah, because I've been out here since 2021, basically. You know, I'm practically a native. I'm from upstate Rochester, New York. But
2001 or?
2001. Did I say 2021? Yeah. Sorry, yeah. 2001.
So yeah, you were definitely here from that. But yeah, they had, everybody was talking about it, like expansion on the upper end of the strip, and this big company coming in from LA, nightclub stuff. They had Hyde at Bellagio, so they opened that hotel, and it seems like they ran out of money at some point or
They've
another.
been trying to bring business to like the north end of the strip because it's like once you get past the Wynn, it's pretty much hard to get. Even like Resorts World, which has a lot of amenities, and people will say negative stuff about it and positive stuff, but partially just because there's a certain like once you pass the Wynn, people don't feel like they're still on the strip anymore. So I think a big hurdle for SLS was just trying to revamp that north end of the strip.
Especially then.
Before you go on, I did want to talk about our first beverage. As usual, I always ask three cocktails that my guest enjoys or wants to talk about. And your first one was the Boilermaker, which in Vegas, a lot of people know, with by many different names of like bombs of some sort, And
And it looks like you made them in the bomb sense.
yes, I felt like, we did a shot and a beer with Adam O'Donnell recently. And I was like, well, we really need to do it justice by doing the actual drop shot
I'm,
on this one.
I'm down with that.
And they say, that the Boilermaker started basically around, it came into like popularity in the 1890s. You had a lot of like locomotive engine workers, as well as Pennsylvania had some metal workers. And like these are the people that kind of helped give it the name, just because it kind of harkens to that, blue collar worker, which I think is why bartenders gravitate so much towards this kind of simplicity. We recently talked about, just like the chef that has a peanut butter and jelly sandwich after work. And this is much like that simplicity. I mean, we're using Coors Light, nothing wrong with it, but it's just a cheap, it's an inexpensive, like not that overly flavorful beer.
Cold and shitty.
Cold and shitty. But now with the resurgence of these craft cocktail bars, and if you go to what is it, Sand Dollar, on the back of their menu, they have basically shot and spirit blends that they either like that mixture. And I was looking it up a little bit about different pairings, and they say like Irish whiskey with an IPA goes better than if you were to do it with a lager. But if you wanted to do tequila, you might get a Mexican cerveza, which makes sense. And then even like an Amaro with a crisp pilsner. So we have Coors. What would you say we would want to do the drop shot of? Are we going real old school, just keep it whiskey?
So, for me, I think kind of hearkening to like what you're talking about specifically for me, and the reason I drink cold and shitty beer, and normally what I would drink it with is going to be your highest, hottest, well rye whiskey. So if you've got old Overholt back there, I would totally or listen, whatever. It's a nice bar, so I wouldn't imagine that there's going to be some old Overholt back here. But I'll take whatever high proof rye whiskey you have.
I love old Overhaul.
Dollar per dollar, it is the best mixing rye whiskey that there's going to be.
That's what I say about Rittenhouse too.
Yeah.
I love Rittenhouse.
Well, Rittenhouse is like 27 a bottle. Old Overholt's 12 a bottle. So I'm like,
we're getting into. That's when he does spreadsheets.
yeah, 100%. Listen, I got to make that beverage cost work somehow. To harken back, I watched your last episode with Adam O'Donnell, and he was talking about all the hidden costs in all of his, all the bills that you get. And trust me, that's all I do now. And yeah, you learn real quick that like opening a business, you're like, oh, we're gonna make all this money opening a bar, and then you're like, oh my god, what the heck did I do?
And that's the thing is deciding really what you want to do, because it sounds like you have no problem running a bar, but then if you want to do something outside of running that bar or working in that hospitality, any like extracurricular, any passion projects, it's hard to accomplish, because when you're pouring your heart into a program that you really want to be something special, you sometimes let all your personal things that you think are cool and that would probably draw interest in a different format, you kind of let go by the wayside.
Oh, 100, and I'm sure we'll, having conversations with you slightly before this, like when we were texting back and forth, like my whole career, like I've had 1 foot in high volume and 1 foot in craft. And man, it's so hard to reconcile the two of those, like, because you have such passion about something and you like want to get real nerdy on it, but then like, for example, when I was out in, I lived in Dubai for a while, I ran this big nightclub complex and I was like, I'm going to, I'm going to teach everybody about all these amazing craft. We're going to do high volume craft cocktails. And as soon as I got there, all everybody wanted was a bullfrog. You know what a bullfrog
I
is?
don't. That was my next question.
Bullfrog. It's a blue Long Island with a can of Red Bull in it. It is it is the bartender's worst nightmare of like, oh,
How do you make me hate Long Island's more?
yeah,
Right.
100%. I'm going to put a can of Red Bull in it. And I was like, nobody's going to drink like bullfrogs at our bar. No, nope. You know what I ended up selling the most of? Bullfrogs.
I mean, it's funny because it's one of those things sometimes, we talk about Malort and stuff. It's one of those things that sometimes that pain or the part that you're like, eye roll makes the laugh, just like the icing, right? Like you don't technically really drink a Smirnoff Ice ever by choice anymore. But when that moment happens,
Humbling.
and you're like, well, it wasn't that bad. You know what I mean? But you wouldn't order it.
Listen, at some point or another, every bartender is going to get that, or every beverage person is going to get that humbling moment where they realize, you know what? I keep forgetting that sometimes I do this for me and not for the guest.
Well, wait, that's interesting. You do it for you and not the guest. I would sometimes say that I almost give more than I intended.
Well, that's you. And I've known about you for a little while, and in Vegas in particular is very, very exceptional. But traveling around and living around the world, and like when people get really passionate about things, they don't necessarily have the clientele that are discerning enough to appreciate like somebody else's passion and things along those lines. But like here, it's like really high volume a lot of the time. So it's like people just want what they want and they go on. But like in other environments where it's like people come specifically to that place, 9 times out of 10, if you look at most people's like product mix, when you go through, they sell a lot of Tito's
Yeah.
in a lot of places, right?
Well, it does make me think though. For example, so Francesco Lafranconi and Livio Loro are two important mentors to me. Both grew up in Italy. Both have currently Livio's running the Southern Wine Spirits program, and for like the education for all that stuff. And Francesco was the one that created that program, and they really made it very clear to me that even simple steps to a guest goes miles, because it's like a vodka soda, vodka soda, garnish, whatever, throw it in there, especially, God forbid, someone just throws it in there without a pick. I lose my mind. But they vodka soda and they send it and the person goes and then right away they go, and then they sip the top of the soda or they sip the top of the vodka. Like they're not getting that incorporation, but that little, you grab a spoon and you like one little once around or twice, and then you pull out and then the guest goes, huh, I've never seen anyone do that. And it's such a simple act and so easy. And like the whole point of it's how do we not like lose our position to these machines that are making cocktails now? And it's things like that when people are like, oh, they're mad that MGM put in a ton of machines in. I think it was MGM that did that. And they're like, well, they're taking our job. I'm like, they will never take my job, because the machine isn't there to be like, please enjoy, stirred. And then like I have another move where especially at events, people are in suits and dress clothes and stuff. And I'll take a tweezer, I'll take the lime, I squeeze the lime. I normally will say, can I save your fingers? And they'll be like, yes. Take the lime, squeeze the two corners, as little contact as possible with the lime, squeeze it. And I see Kyler will do good because Kyler works with me, besides editing here, he also works with me on Raise the Bar. But, and he makes sure to block the guest from the spray. Whereas the only difference between our two, like that thoughtfulness, is mine, because I'm worried about any kind of hand contact for perceptions basis. Even though my hands are clean, I'm only touching alcohol. I'm not touching my face. You know what I mean? Normally the guest goes, oh yes, please. Or and occasionally when I don't ask, they go like, thank you. Because everyone knows that moment where you got the pulp of the lime on your fingers and you're like, okay, if you didn't get the napkin, or now you have like a little bit of a residue on your fingers. So it's little things like that to me that you know, when you get the $100 tip because the person's just impressed that they have never seen like that thoughtfulness of a vodka soda. Another rule I have at every single bar I run or like have any kind of training purposes, I say we do not serve anything with pineapple that it's like 1-to-1s, for example. If it's a splash of pineapple on a soda, that's different. But if it's vodka pineapple or tequila pineapple and you don't shake that, it doesn't need a lot of shake. You put the two ingredients. I don't even care if you put it in the cup and quick shake and then put it back in the cup. You know,
Yeah, just roll it.
that little the shake, that one little Maillard effect of shaking it and getting that pop of air and fluffs it up. And now there is no mixing needed. They're going to be like, no, I ordered a vodka pineapple or a tequila pineapple. And you're like, that's it. And like, well, why has it never looked like this before? Because I'm like, no one's ever cared, you know?
Correct.
So real quick, Roulette rye, 95% rye, 5% barley. I thought this was a real stout rye. I want to say this is 50%, right on the 100 proof.
Not to shout out the distributors here, but is that Pacific?
I believe it is. Yes. Yeah.
Little. Is Kenny still there?
Dude, they have a dream team right now. They have a lot of great guys. Martin Gutierrez, I believe, just joined them.
Does that come from Willett House too?
I would be lying if I said yes.
I think it might be the cut from that.
Our next step on this podcast will have the researching aspect when it's like on the fly information that I should know.
The old Joe Rogan. Hey, Jamie.
Exactly. I always think of Mark. I think of Mark Norman. Jamie, pull it up. You know, he's really funny. But we might as well get this over with. Let's.
You say it like you're.
It's been a while since I've actually done a drop shot of anything.
Are we gonna?
Yeah.
Cheers it.
Oh, I like it.
Right,
Okay. You're gonna have to teach me how to cheers a Boilermaker.
Like this. Still got it.
Oh man, that hit the spot. And delicious. Great choice.
That is delicious.
It's fun. The funnest part about doing this podcast is getting a little bit of foam. The funnest part about doing this podcast is remembering things that I don't do anymore that I've forgotten about.
Getting ice and then doing a drop shot Boilermaker.
I haven't been iced in my life, you know, until the last couple years or last year, and now I've been iced like 3 times. So
that's what happens when you hang out with Adam. Dude, can we
Adam
pause real quick and talk about how long have you known Adam O'Donnell?
As close as I know him now, very like more recent. I've known of him, and we've said hello politely to each other for the last decade.
We've done the same.
Right, exactly. It's like you know someone's like a good bartender, and it's because you're not technically in like the same groups of people that hang out after work, potentially just because your proximity to the nearest inexpensive bar that you can all go to, and it's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm on the other side of town, I'm not going to see you, and that sometimes dictates friendships in this town.
Can we talk about how comfortable he looks in his long ass hair?
Bro, someone said something about
he
like
was
a hippie
so
Jesus.
But he was so like clean cut, like handsome, like proper. And then watching him on your podcast, Ice You, I was like, I've been gone from Vegas 2 years, and that happened.
And if you probably are thinking of old Adam O'Donnell with like almost like a military
100%
hair.
That's all I'm thinking. Nomad, herbs and rye, like afraid to talk to him. Like I did okay for myself, like in the industry, but like there are certain guys like Adam O'Donnell, and then like Emily Yett, and then like Kinson. Like I'm still afraid of Kinson Lau. Kinson Lau to me, best bartender I've ever met in my life.
It's mostly because of his stoicism beyond anything else. Because you're just like, what's under the surface? Because
I know,
so put together.
No, I know what's under the surface. I've hung out with him a lot, but it's just it's not even that. It's just he is like to me, and what makes you kind of like, and what we were talking about the attention to detail.
Yeah,
is like what the industry lacks in, I would say 95% of the places, and what like guys like Francesco and Livio do, is there's intention and authenticity to it and thoughtfulness that you don't get everywhere, and that doesn't translate everywhere. Like, listen, it depending on where I'm at, like I love the idea of like grabbing limes with tweezers, but like,
Don't get me wrong.
There's a place and time.
If you're at Sand Dollar and there's 20 people in line, I'm not gonna be like, squeeze your lime for you, miss. Obviously, I'd get kicked off the bar.
Full fingers in?
You're right. No,
Are you gonna go full fingers in?
He's still gonna ask.
It depends. It really depends. I am very particular, but I also know, like, if I look around the room and I see what everyone's doing, I'm like, well, I'm not gonna be that guy. So then I follow like their lead. Depends on my role, but normally lately, since I've been like stepping away from running bars because I really wanted to take off with the podcast and my company Raise the Bar, that I like, you know, I don't want to dedicate myself to a program, so I also have to get in where I fit in.
For sure, but that's, and to my point from prior, is sometimes I think we get so involved in our pride for what we do, and like, listen, Francesco and Livio are two of the best in the business. Like Francesco, when I lived in Dubai, there were like his disciples there.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's cool.
Like Italian guys that he taught like years ago, and I remember like taking a picture and like sending it to him. Like I remember like the first time I ever met Francesco. That's a really funny story, but you know, like I remember meeting these guys, and he's just got such a presence. And when I first met him, I was like, I'm coming in like Tallahassee nightclub bartender. I'm like, oh, what is this? What does this guy know? Blah, blah, blah. But the further along in my relationship that I got with him, and having respect for what he's trying to do, like I get, like, God, this guy's like Tony Abagam, like these are legends, and they have such authenticity and focus on the guest experience,
Yeah.
and it really raises the bar, right?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Plug.
But
Even tell him to do that.
no, it really does. It raises the experience. Like you go to Japan and you go to the bars there, and it's a full experience. And there's like a dichotomy of like, sometimes there's the get it in you moment, and then there's the like cocktailier, like full experience, the room, the lights, the music, the smells, the sights, the full sensory overload. But like in a nightclub, it's kind of get it in you.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. At a nightclub, it's
That's how the Australians say cheers. Get it in you.
at a nightclub, so the pick is very useful for that type of a setting, and that's where I'm still following the, you know, well, if I had like a glove on or something, but I would just also,
You can just raw
it's
dog
like
it,
this.
dude.
It's to do this and pop and then drop it in.
No, just raw dog it.
I mean, and wait, we raw dogging it. It's not even going on a rim. It's just getting
Just
plunk.
squeeze it
Oh,
right
God,
in.
my heart.
I actually, if I squeeze it, I'll throw it out.
Well,
I draw the line somewhere.
see, now that's what's funny too,
I'm polite.
because I thought
Gentlemen.
that was the smart move, right? Life is like experimenting. You try something and you go, oh, well, that had a weirder reaction than I did. I wanted. And I was thinking that with several guests. And especially this has more to do with like people that have been drinking for 60 years or 50 years. And if I squeeze for them, they'll be happy. But then if I discard the fruit, they'll be like, oh, could I get a lime, please?
They wanna smush it in there and like give it
Like,
something
it's in there
to
though,
do.
you know, but so, and I get it.
Listen, you can give them an extra one. Listen, I'm going 90. They can take the last 10.
Yeah.
You know, like you ever see like what is it, Hitch, where he's like, I go 90, you go 10.
Dude, that's a classic. That's a classic.
Yeah.
I'm going to
I
start
was
setting
told
us
that-
up for you to make this gin Rickey, and I want you to tell us a little bit after what you're going to say. Tell us a little bit about the gin Rickey and how you've used it in your repertoire for many years. But please, I cut you off.
I was going to say, I was told to throw out like Lord of the Rings references whenever I get a second.
That's because Chef Nicole is part of our really awesome Lord of the Rings movie night that now we have finished the trilogy of Lord of the Rings, and it's pretty freaking cool because it's the people that are in the room. It's like Eric Kluver is a spirits genius. You have Chef Nicole Bryson, who is not only a
Who's never
chef
seen
who does everything
the
in the
series.
kitchen, but I know she had never seen it, and that was what sparked this whole evening,
Yeah,
and
and
it
then
was
you brought
awesome.
her over with a bunch of Lord of the Rings nerds.
Oh, and let me tell you,
Reciting
honestly,
word for word.
she has never been more of a trooper than those times. because
Oh, she's always a trooper.
and I know and she is a person that will take the heavy load and like really like represent the team and do all the hard work. But it's like for this, Eric Kluver is if I like Lord of the Rings, like he is like at the convention. You know what I mean? And I was like, okay, for a new Lord of the Rings watcher, a person that doesn't necessarily watch fantasy or know anything of the books or have not read the books or whatever, probably do them theatrical release because it adds like an hour on each one. So it's like by the end of like the movies, like you see everyone's kind of like, whoa, dude. Not everyone. I should just say the people that aren't nerds about it. And right, and we had one other person join us. I won't throw him under the bus, but he dipped out before we got like an hour into the movie.
No, you can throw him under the bus.
No. Constantine Alexander, he really fucked us. I was like, we did all three, and the plan was, and this is like kind of what I love about being in this community is that we're all, and I didn't mention Shannon. Shannon is the GM at Garage East and helps out at Manzu a lot, and she is also just like a wine like freak. She knows so much about wine, and when she talks about wine, it kind of makes it like romantic. And I really appreciate that.
100%.
So Cole always brings like way too much food, like food to feed an army that everyone's going to have leftovers, you know, and really staying, you know, true to her roots. But then also like Shannon brought like her own ceviche dish plus 2 cool bottles of wine. I'm like any spirits you want plus wine. Eric brings a bottle of really cool scotch, and we have like an interesting, very, I don't want to say it's educational because we're not like trying to teach nothing to each other, but like, you know, we'll talk about the scotch, we'll talk about the wine, then we're enjoying it. And
Well, that's
you know,
the only time I've ever experienced like hyper passion like that is living in Las Vegas. Like I went to Friendsgiving 3 years in a row at Anthony Jamison's house. And it's untouchable.
you said at which Jameson's house?
Anthony Jamison.
Oh, wow.
And he
Never
throws,
gotten that invite.
that's your fault, Anthony, not mine. I
I have made a scene once or twice at his bar, so
It-
I understand. He's
it-
probably like, nah, probably not.
I think there's a safe word coming out here.
No, you know what, though?
I've
He
made
was a-
more of a scene at his bar ever, and he can tell you the time he found my ID one time. But
Well, he's definitely going to come back on as well as Nate. Nate Greats also is going to be on sooner.
can we talk about Nathan Great's hair?
Fantastic.
Dude, he was so...
I'm noticing you pay attention to hair.
Well, listen,
You have wavy, great hair, so that's
well,
normally.
it's also like hyper graying, and I still got it, so I'm...
Oh, Silver Fox is in right now, dude. I'm getting
How old are
gray
you?
as
How-
hell.
How old are you?
I'm 36.
I'm 2 years older than you, dude.
I'm a grandfather.
What?
Thank you. I do this all the time.
You're a grandfather?
I know it's the best icebreaker in the world. You could totally win any argument when you're like, "Oh yeah, your knees hurt. I'm a grandfather." And
No, my brother's a grandfather. My brother literally 2 weeks ago became a grandfather, and I go, "Your loose skin and your old balls, gross."
Yeah, Michael Jambroni
5-year
Jr. had
What is it? Don't die.
Michael Jambroni Jr. had MG3, so I've got a third line
Oh,
on this
so
lineage.
you're number one. You have a number two.
Yeah, my father had a middle name, and he was so lazy that he was like, "Nah, I'm just gonna go Michael Jambroni, no middle." So me and my sisters
So your
picked
son's
our
the
middle
third?
names. I didn't pick one. Yeah, my grandson is my third in line of like
But your dad's name is Michael Jimmer.
Michael James Jambroni. I'm always the person that says NA on a middle name. Anyways, it's not a very interesting conversation.
No, it is because I'm the second.
Yes, but I don't feel the audience cares.
You're a junior?
No, I'm not a junior. I'm a number two.
I feel we talked way too much about my family line.
Well, you're the host, so like we want to know more about you.
Well, thank you.
Well, listen, one day it's going to get real big, so like people are going to want to know about you and not just us.
Your mouth to God's ears. I mean, come on.
Listen, you keep bringing on great guests, you know.
I've set you up now. I did mess up. He said that he has made his career on riff, not made his career, but one of his favorite things to do is to riff a gin Rickey with
Oh, no.
basil, mint, cucumber, and things like that
He's being
nature.
polite.
I messed up and didn't get cucumber today, so he's really riffing because I said, "Well, do what you." I really want to see the master at work. I have him set up with some basil, some lime, and some mint for the gin Rickey. And to talk a little bit about the gin Rickey before he gets up here, it was definitely it's been you've had it. You've had a Rickey, whether it be gin or something else. You might know it as a ranch water. It is the same thing.
Dude, I'm moving to Texas, and that's literally like on the menu.
I mean, it's like ranch water, lime, club soda, and tequila. Well, that was a gin Rickey.
Do you guys have Lalo here yet?
That sounds familiar, and I know a guy that bartends named Lalo, but no.
Lalo tequila, if you go anywhere in like the Southwest, it's like an explosion. I think I'm not going to quote it the wrong way. He worked at a tequila shop at somewhere. I want to say he worked for the Patron family, but I may be wrong. I don't know. But you go to Texas, period, end of story. That's nobody drinks anything else. It's about to take over. Go buy stock if you can. I don't know what it is, but like I was in Idaho yesterday driving down from Seattle, Lalo on the top. I was like, holy crap.
We're going to have to tequila matchmaker this and see a little bit more details about this. I'm always skeptical of new tequila brands, though everyone knows I love additive-free tequila.
It is additive free.
See, and that's a big factor for me.
Yeah,
I was at Total
quit
Wine.
whiskey until today.
Believable.
No, I didn't. Dude, I went to Austin with a guy who was like a mezcal expert, and normally I'll drink 3-4 shots of whiskey in a night if I'm like going out, and I'll wake up and I'm like dead. I drank like a half gallon of mezcal in like a day and a half.
The things that should have killed us sometimes, you're like, really?
Yeah, and I woke
Still
up and I
around.
was like, I'm still good.
Well, it's like me. I'm normally like still in clothes on the couch. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
But I am home safe. And I don't drive because I drink a lot. So I don't drink and drive. Please always make sure to drink responsibly and never drink and drive. I can't tell you how scary it makes me feel that, and I don't want to bag on Las Vegas about this, but this is one thing that is kind of a thing that in Las Vegas, there's so many people drinking. There's so much alcohol available that it is very easy to have 2 drinks, think you're fine, and get a DUI. And you would think you're being your most responsible. Hey, I cut myself off at 2. I had water afterwards. And all I'm saying is, man, you think you're good until the day you mess up.
Trust me, college for 9 years. I've seen it all.
Man, so I do say, like, it's easy to Uber. It really is. So I love that. That's been like a game changer.
Average DUI costs $10,000. Do you know what average Uber costs?
Yeah.
30.
Right. We are going to talk. It's return trip, and it is time. I've been that guy. I've been the guy where I'm like, but then I got to come back here, and then I got to do this. I'm way past statute of limitations on this, but I was justified in my head that I'm like, no, I drink a lot, so having a couple isn't a problem. And then I drive, and then like I lost a relationship over it, and I like respect that. So I was like, you know what, I'm taking that out of my hands. Living in a world where you can actually realistically not own a vehicle anymore. And if you have like,
especially in a big city
like this, my lifestyle,
Seattle,
get a bike, do a little bit of like exercise to get to places. I walked last night. I wanted to get something from the corner store. I walked to the corner store.
Yeah, whatever.
With my dog.
You're not going to do that in fucking July here.
Oh, you kidding me? I'm out there shirtless. I love it. I love the sun, dude. I would do that. Like, I can't wait. Don't get me wrong.
Like you've been working
It's a
out.
soggy shirtless. I'm going to be honest with you. It's soggy. I drink too much to be a 6-pack Joe here. But here, I'm going to let you step up.
All right. Let's see if I can still remember how to do this. Do you have cracked ice? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah. So I like to make I have a mold for ice, for large cubes. And I like to hand chip what's left over if it still looks clear.
All right. I'm going to move your hat out of the side because I like to make. Oh, wait. You have a camera right here. So I got to.
But it'll see both. It doesn't matter. That's if you're down there working. The main camera will see what you do.
Okay. So
And then your gins. So we didn't talk about it. You have a lot of gins here and some carried over into this vodka section here, which next podcast, I will have this rearranged based on a few people that have exited my life and a few people. I just don't think cognacs are, even though they're very cool, and I know people that can geek out about it, some of the most intelligent spirits professionals in town, they will gravitate towards cognac. But I would say I want to move cognac out of the front and center because it's just not talked about a lot. And we follow trends. That's that part of being an operator like you. You're following trends. What's cool? There was a time where everyone ordered only Hendrix.
Only Wells.
Well, right.
The operator's going to be like, only Wells.
It's like Hendrix. They had like another cult one was Botanist. Everyone was ordering Botanist
Or Bullfrog.
Yeah. Wait, what?
Bullfrog.
Oh yeah. Bullfrog's a gin. I know Bulldog.
A Bulldog, I mean.
Boom. See, that's that
I'm
Boilermaker.
going back to the Bullfrog cocktail.
You came from a wine dinner at Anima, which I'm pressed because you don't show any signs, but
Been doing it a long time.
that's right, baby.
Do you have bottle opener? Nope.
Oh yeah, right here.
Probably in the drawer. Awesome. Okay, because I know I'm going to need soda water, so we'll be right back.
Boom. Yeah, so a little bit more on the gin Rickey. So it was mentioned in Great Gatsby's. That was 1925, I believe that was written. And then also in the 1900, in 1900, it was in the Bartender's Guide by Harry Johnson. So this is actually a very classic
Is that a real name?
cocktail. I know, right? Like Harry Johnson. I don't know if it had the same connotations when he was named.
It's my stripper name.
And no, but it actually
Mike Hunt did that cocktail back.
to make sense about the name, the gin Rickey. It actually started as the Joe Rickey because it was Colonel Joseph Rickey that was sitting at a bar called what was that? Remind me, Kyler. What was the bar?
Where's your
There was
Hendrix in this joint?
It's it's Shoemaker's Bar, like double O. I think it is. What were you looking for?
Hendrix.
Oh, Monkey 47. I got Hendrix Lunar. Ooh, am I out of regular Hendrix? What did I say? Every podcast,
That's a good.
someone has something I'm missing. I have Hendrix Lunar.
Or do you have Jamari?
Gin Mari.
Jamari?
I'm not familiar.
Dude, that one of their botanicals is olives. It's really awesome.
I like that.
That or
If you were gonna do,
here, I'm gonna step away 2 seconds and go investigate. I'll be right back.
yeah, a lot of gins here. I've been a big fan of Gunpowder Irish Gin a lot lately. Ryan McGinnis, who was I think like episode 3 here, he has Spring 44.
Imitation Hendrix.
I mean, hey, is that okay? So tell me, do they have like a cucumber extract or anything in there? Or?
That was so like was it RNDC for the longest time had Hendrix. I don't know if it's still RNDC out here, but Southern Wine and Spirits did they had to have like, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just quoting things. I just know where I was just at that RNDC carried Republican National carried Hendrix, and then this is like the answer to it. That's why like the bottle seems similar, and all that kind of. And they all have like that kind of like cucumber-ish, like that. We know the difference between like a masculine, like very juniper forward gin, and then the botanical gins, which are very what they call feminine gins. So this one doesn't have like the super juniper forward.
Right.
Has like the rose petal.
I also want to say, so that, speaking of, we talked about Kinson Lau. Kinson is working with Campari now. He was Mr. Kettle One for a while after he left Herbs and Rye, which, that is definitely where he really got his name on the map, I'm sure. And I didn't know him at the time. He was bartending at Herbs and Rye. But now he's at Campari, and I was like, damn, what a role. Because he went from always in a suit with Kettle One, like always. You would never, ever not see him in a suit.
Martini man.
And then with Campari, glassware will be right at.
No,
Wait.
looking lime juice.
Damn it.
See, I'm that guy just calling out all the things. Yeah, and we have simple syrup back here too. Yeah. See? Oh, here he comes with the cheater bottles. Oh my.
Now wait a second. You're gonna do a Rickey with simple syrup?
for my particular, yeah.
I'm interested.
Well, you got to balance out because I like to. So my biggest thing is so I overproof the booze.
Okay.
So I'm a Las Vegas pour, so I'm 2 ounces, not an ounce and a half. So I like to up my citrus, and then I like to cut slightly, a little bit with a sweetener. Otherwise, it's too tart, especially if you have really great lime juice. And then depending where you're at in the country too.
Like key limes are ideal.
So in my experience, because I've traveled around quite a bit and I've lived overseas, so like even buying lime juice overseas, like when I lived in Dubai, craziest thing in the entire world, you would like squeeze limes and the tartness would be like so muted, you'd be like baffled about it. You'd be like, this
Interesting.
doesn't. Sometimes we'd have to fortify. We'd have to acid adjust.
Right. So that makes sense because you're not going to put like a large amount, or are you? Because like a Collins is the citrus with obviously a Collins is lemon and not lime. But when I was looking up, because I want to make sure that I'm talking about factual things and making sure that I'm not saying a thing I think that's correct. And then, right. So I looked it up on which my favorite website to look. There's two. I love liquor.com is one of my favorite because for the most part, they tell you everything you need to know. And then I
I'll
like
give you a backstory too.
right with the backstory, and I like Difford's guide.
Yep.
But on liquor.com, they were saying that partially the reason that the Rickey was so popular was because of its no sugar versus the Collins, which was very popular, but is a much more balanced cocktail.
Yeah.
But now this makes sense because it's like, yeah, it's like at its heart, it's a Rickey, but then when you riff, you're changing little minutiaes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm a balanced person, so like even when I make
I think
drinks,
that's pluralizable. So
what?
I said minutiaes. I
Oh,
don't believe that's correct.
I'm a balanced person, so I'm not necessarily like. So it's so hard. Like I worked with Sam Ross for a little while. He opened up the Dorsey in Las Vegas, and one of the biggest things that I ever took away from like working with him is like he had this like philosophy on like how the old fashioned is made. And because we were in such a high volume kind of like space, he would always talk about like dilution, right? And how like everybody will like talk about like balance of cocktails, but like you can't specifically tell me that when you shake a cocktail, how long it's going to take, depending on the room, the location you're at, maybe the
Size of
out,
the ice.
yeah, all of that. Like how much water you're going to get into it, and then like all that we have to do to taste at the end is like maybe a straw test,
Right.
and be like, yeah, that's the perfect cocktail.
Right.
So like his old fashioned, the way he made old fashions, changed the way that like I think about beverage forever. And the same way I kind of approach this is it's like this idea of taking out the least amount of variables. So like I'll build as much as I can to decrease the amount of like user error on all of that kind of stuff. His old fashions, he would build in the glass, like he would muddle with the sugar cube, bitters, and a splash of soda water to like kind of dissolve like the carbonation, emulsify it, put the bourbon in it, put the ice cube in it, and you'd stir in it. Because he was like, well, if you build it in a mixing glass,
Residual.
well, no, he would say you build it in the mixing glass. You know what the worst thing is about an old fashioned? If you do it that way,
Right.
the best it's ever going to taste is that first sip, because otherwise it's going to get diluted from there. So how do you want to be like a legendary bartender? Here's what you do. You build it in the glass like that. So that first sip, you're like, whoo. The second sip, you're like, damn. And then the third sip, you're like, this is the best goddamn old fashioned I've ever had.
Man, now I want a muddled old fashioned because I've been very anti muddled old fashioned.
No, not with, no, it's
Just like the sugar, not the cherry and the orange you're talking.
yeah.
It's just
Not
it's basically making,
the Wisconsin old fashioned.
right, and it's basically making to coin my favorite term an a la minute like sugar syrup that you're doing with just a small amount. And when I see
He's an absolute legend. So I'm very fortunate to ever have been associated with the godfather of one of the godfathers of.
well, he's a genius. Like he
Well, we have
made
just
the
that-
spins all right.
I believe
Was that Sam? I believe it was.
he's paper airplane and penicillin. So
Right.
like that's it. Like if
trying
I
to
have to
picture
make
if
another
that's the-
paper airplane and text a picture of it to him, like I'm gonna be like one too many.
Yeah.
And then it's like that in the Trinidad Sour with Giuseppe, and it's like I put it on a cocktail menu, and I always take a picture, and he hates it so much when I send it to him. He's like, "Ah, I hate myself. Like,
Yeah.
he's like the most anti, like
Of his
thing
own cocktails or the
Oh,
Trinidad
100
sour? Yeah.
yeah, the most anti, but love him to death.
Right.
Hopefully he doesn't watch this and is like, fuck that, fuck English.
I mean, he's seen some episodes, you know, so he probably will. But no, it's one of those things. It's like tasting. It's tasting like my own cocktails. I am never going to be happy with them. I don't care if I know it's
No?
done perfectly. I am always like, I could have done this a little differently. I could have been better. Like I did a cocktail competition at Esther's just a week or two ago, and you know, timing is very relevant. So I thought it was like an avocado mystery ingredient, and I don't like to like panic or run around, so I'm kind of going casual. And then at the end, I taste it. It's like I only have maybe 30 seconds left to, maybe like a minute left to pour, garnish, and everything. And I was like, well, it is over tart. It was too tart, and I knew it. But it was either put them out a drink after the time that I was allotted, or give them a tart drink. And I know that's not an exact reference because we're talking about like in a professional setting.
Real quick, young bartenders out there always building the smaller one, never building the bigger one. Just saying, pet peeve of mine.
And do you want to tell them why?
You'll never overfill it.
Boom. That's something that you will see with some bartenders that, you know, they fill in the big tin, they put ice in there, and then they try to put that small tin on top. Or even if they put the small tin with ice and put it on top, if you have just a little too much, it's going to come up the sides, splash, and then your first move when you shake, you're getting the rest of that on your shoulder.
Shout out real quick. I'm not Instagram famous, but shout out to my boy Chris Levitt for being the most handsome bartending man on all of Instagram. One day I'll grow up and be just like you.
Well, that's because you guys look like you could be brothers too, right?
He looks like Macaulay Culkin, and I do not.
That's true. He does have a Macaulay Culkin youthful look to his face.
Yeah, he actually looks like Kieran Culkin.
Yeah,
one
because
of
he doesn't look like Macaulay Culkin now.
Well, he
know?
looks like the healthy version of him.
Sorry, Macaulay.
So another little tip for young bartenders out there. My favorite thing to do, also a little Sam Ross trick, is I don't top. I like to pour right into the old shaker over there. And then
The fact that not everyone does that kills me.
it kills me too. You have fine strainer here, or am I shit out of luck?
Shit out of luck right now. But I did fine strain. I fine strained the.
So I don't. I
You have 2 Hawthorns and 1 julep.
So I am like the anti-muddler for mint and.
Right. Oh, you put mint in there?
I put basil in there.
Yeah, give me 30 seconds. I'll have or
good.
2 seconds. I'll get you a fine smash.
Okay, that's fine. But like, as far as like the actual like muddling of it with the
Right.
stick, yeah, I'm really tall and I've got long arms, so like I shake the shit out of it. So it's gonna do the same exact thing.
Controversial opinion though. Okay, so first off, Francesco taught me that he builds the mint in the glass. Like so if I'm making the mojito, for example, in the tin,
Different
mint in the glass, pressed up the sides,
different story.
right? And then
That's a mojito.
shake, poured in. Now, yeah, gin because you're blending, but now and now basil doesn't count because basil doesn't have the same factor. But mint,
Basil oxidized faster than mint too.
but mint shaken has a chlorophyll grassier note when you dice it up as
100%.
opposed to pressing the oil.
Yeah, that's why I'm doing it just with the basil.
Just the basil?
Yeah, 100%. Basil oxidizes faster. Like if you slap basil, it browns like almost in your hand.
Interesting. Okay, I never even really paid attention to that, and it does make sense.
Like basil leaves are more delicate. This has more fiber in it. The old mint leaf. But he's coming over with that real quick.
Anti-Muddler sounds like a Batman villain.
That is my Batman villain name. All right, so just go back into the old bad boy over here. That's still got it.
Right there, and a perfect collar. Another thing is making sure that the collar isn't so high that the guest is spilling on their way. But you still get people that want you to fill it right up to the tippy top. And then they're kind of like, oh, what about the rest or whatever? And you're like, okay, go ahead. Here it is to the top. And then they walk away and it's like, splash, splash. You're like, thank you.
You just said a key term that not a lot of bartenders know. Collar. Collar means the space between the rim of the glass and the cock. And
Very fair.
I'm telling you, I talk about collars of like cocktails all the time because glassware choice is super important. Like martini glasses, like
Nightmare.
9 ounces, and you're every bartender's nightmare is like you get a martini and you put it in front of them and it's a 3 ounce build and it's like 6 ounces and there's this much left and they go, that's it, and you're like, oh
God.
you look at your bar manager like, I hate your glassware choice. It's like if you have a 3 ounce build, it's either a 6.5 or 7 ounce coupe martini glass. Like those are like little tips and tricks as you learn. Like you live in a city like Salt Lake City, for example, where you can only pour like certain amounts of base spirits and things, and like old fashions, you can't do 2 ounces. You can only have 1.5 ounces of like
Utah and stuff.
yeah. In Salt Lake City, I opened a bar there, and so like glassware choice is really super important. So we bought these like they're like tiny Spanish buckets. They're like probably like 5.5 ounces of like little rocks glasses, and then you put like a large cube in it, fits perfectly in, stir it, garnish out, and it looks full, so you never have to get the like double old fashioned glass. Like that's it.
Yeah.
My pet peeve is like when guests are like disappointed by like the product you put in front of them, where our job is to worry about them, not their job to worry about us. Right?
Yeah.
So
No, 100%.
right, and we've got the straws.
Straws on your left. We got basil and some lime wheels right there.
Yeah, I'm gonna do the old garnish.
And if you want tweezers, it doesn't sound like you do, but they're in that drawer right there on your left.
Dogging it, dude.
That's right. Or to coin Chris Levitt's term, hand flavored.
Yeah, hand flavored, or never mind. I'm gonna refrain from putting my own term out there, so not to incriminate myself.
I'm going to a new job in Austin. We
Oh
have to
no,
start.
trust me, the guys who I work with know who I
Old
am.
friends, yeah.
It's just a matter of like if I want to get ever hired by anybody who watches the podcast.
I think people enjoy sincerity more than anything. Boom, and we'll switch spots. Thank you, bro. I appreciate this. This is going to be amazing.
Smells good. That's all that matters. I didn't even.
You're talking away.
Normally I taste test this, but here's.
Oh, I feel like you've done this enough time. You don't need to.
Still got it.
Got it. And still stayed true to the form of the low sugar that a gin Rickey is supposed to have, right?
Yeah,
It's balanced.
Just trying to, if you up the booze, you have to move everything else up for the balance. And if you 3/4 ounce the citrus, you gotta, especially again, you're so far south that you get limes quicker than you would say living in Seattle, where our limes tend to be not as tart because they're kind of on another week lifespan of being picked and getting up there. You know what I mean?
That's another thing that it's funny that the longer you do this, you start realizing little things that, not even that you weren't intelligent enough to understand it. You just didn't like really put 2 and 2 together. And it's like, well, key limes was a more popular lime back. Like now we have so much of these American limes or whatever these limes that we have now that aren't key limes. They're not as sweet. Mm-hmm. So when people make these drinks, like a Rickey, I don't think it was made with the limes that we are currently using right now.
Oh, absolutely not.
They are a lot more tart. There's a lot less sweetness to them.
Yeah, their pith is like, you can't even
Thicker pith.
But no, their pith is thicker, but like their skin is super thin. So like the skin of a lemon, you can peel a lemon and try to like and do like a zest of it. You try to do that with a lime, unless you're using like one of the palm peelers. Even then, it's like you get so much white pith on the skin on a lime is so much more thin than a lemon that you're just not getting that, and it just doesn't retain the amount of oil. So
I like that you called it a palm peeler, and I was gonna say that's like the one biggest that and a mandolin injury, but that's like the biggest injury I see at a bar is peeler injuries. because a person grabs it like this and then peels into their palm.
Yep.
And takes a little sliver.
Yeah.
Little rough imagery, but you know, for those that are aspiring bartenders or home bartenders who don't want to cut themselves in front of a dinner party, it's like always, you know, go away from anything and
that
balance.
everybody's like so bonkers about, like Joe Pereira is like super bonkers about. It's like it's a cheese peeler, right?
It's like in the sense of a Y peeler or
No,
a
it's like
specific
this.
brand.
No, it's that, but it's like flat.
Oh wait, like a
It looks like a cheese.
like a truffle peeler,
Yeah, almost.
right? Because those pull out those little. I mean,
Again, I've been out of the game so long, like being directly in the business, but I still follow like trends and stuff. But there's like a type of peeler. Anthony Jamison would be the guy to tell you like it's the only peeler that you should carry. Talking from a guy who's never been a bartender, he's never been a bartender, but like he's like so nerdy about it now.
well, he would have to argue that now because when he opened up Sandollar, you saw him back there bar backing a ton, and that's the other thing. It's like once people have this glamorous idea of owning a bar, but when you want it to be successful and you don't have a bajillion dollars behind it that you can just hire every single person you need, you know, you're working the hours. My buddy Mike owned some porta subs in town, and he's like, yeah, well, to save myself a $40,000 salary, I'm also working as a sandwich guy
Yeah.
and a supervisor and all these other things. And it's just like
Again,
ownership, but you're really doing double the work because then you get off the line after a 6 or 7 hour shift and you go and do reports. And it's like,
so, you know, I know I'm on a bartender podcast and I haven't bartended in quite a while.
it's a hospitality podcast and you're a hospitality guy.
No, for sure. I think I'm going to get, so I've traveled and I've been listen guys, I've been very, very, very lucky. I've had some really great people take really good care of me. But what I've learned throughout my career, and for anybody who's like, and I get these text messages all the time. I get text messages from operators who are far above me. These are people I respect, so I won't like put their names out there because it's not none of my business. But there's really amazing like people I know who have had opportunities to move to other countries, and or specifically Dubai, and they reached out to me and go, "What do you think?" And I go, "Listen, the traveling part of like we would all like being a bartender, like we would all love to travel all around the world. We would all that's a dream. Like
I know a lot of bartenders that live paycheck to paycheck because they'll save up for a trip to India
for sure.
and then be gone for 2 weeks or 3. And then they come back and they're like, yeah, I'm broke living in a friend's house. And you're like, but you just went to India. And they're like, that's what I care about.
For sure. But like people are like, how do I take this and go like live doing it, right? And I've done that. I've lived in, dude, I worked for a hospitality company that opened nightclubs. I lived in Romania. I was in Thailand and Vietnam. I was all over Asia. I was in the Middle East.
I have a lot of questions about this.
Yeah. So
what's your favorite country, including ours? If it's not ours, I want to know, to bartend. And I know this, like, disregarding what's about to happen for you in Austin. I know you're not really bartending, you're like running a program. But what's the coolest place to bartend? Not just for your accolades, but like that you enjoyed the process, that they did it right, and that you felt like, oh, we're doing something cool here. Vietnam. Wow, I did not see that coming.
Without a question.
Really?
Dude, I'm telling you, Chef Kai Vu from who was here he was part of District 1. So he just opened. So before I moved to Seattle,
Dean Wynn is back in District 1, I believe.
Yep.
Now, and she's amazing.
Yep.
So if you haven't been to District 1, I highly recommend it. It's incredible.
So her cousin is Kai. And so before I moved to Seattle, I was like in between, like, what am I going to do? And Kai moved. I had already been back from Vietnam. Kai went out to open up Prime Steakhouse in Vietnam, and I was this close to going out and working with him. It was just my girlfriend at the time. That's a really big move for almost anybody, especially if you've never been out of the country before. So like, it's intense because Vietnam is, if you're going to go on vacation, not a starter country. It's a communist country. It's like developing. Saigon is an amazing like first world city, But you get outside of that, it's still like very rural. Like
Is all of your bartending experience in Saigon based on that, or
no,
did you go? Were you in like a rural?
no. I most of my time like when I worked in the industry was out there, but like I also had to like go out to like when I was building the clubs and stuff. I had to go out to like take a cab ride 2 hours outside of town to go to like a rice paddy, like where they're building furniture, and I'm like making the ladies put on like high heels because I made them wrap the the cushions in PVC because I'm like I know that these cushions, if you build them, you need to have make sure that like girls that'll stand on like couches that their heels won't puncture the things. So I have these like five
Wow.
5'2" Vietnamese ladies out in the middle of the jungle wearing high heels that I brought out with me, like stomp on
You're
the.
like, and here's our testers, and they're all.
No, but it was just like they were like, why are we wrapping it in PVC? Not PVC pipe, but like PVC fabric. And it's a trick I learned from Dubai because we had the same thing happen there, and then I learned how to like skip the steps, right? So I worked adjacent to a lot of different places in Vietnam, and but the biggest thing for me is like cocktail culture in Vietnam was super in its infancy when I was there, and now, dude, the two bartenders, shout out to Lam and Fu, if you guys are watching this, you are the two best human beings I've ever met in my entire life. They are now, Lam owns 3 bars. He actually owns the old space that we opened up that closed after COVID. Lam owns Hybrid in Saigon. Dude, these guys are light year, and cocktails are like hyper savory focused out there. So there's a lot of mushroom kind of like
I'm thinking of like Vietnamese food, right?
no, but like their style of cocktails, like they don't mess around with like the sweet and the citrus. Dude, everything there is like super savory. There's a lot of umami stuff
They
that
make
goes.
spicy cocktails out there, considering how spicy the food is.
Oh, they're spicy, but the umami part is like the biggest part.
Actually, I'm thinking Thai. Thai food's more spicy.
It's,
I'm mixing up.
yeah, it's more spicy, but like the Vietnamese, mark my words, dude, in the next 10 years, that's going to be like everybody talks about like Singapore, Hong Kong, Japan. Mark my words. These guys, I taught them how to like do business and do like American hospitality, and now they're crushing it. Like it's to me, it was just a country that was like hungry for people to come along. Like, and there were guys who were there before me, and like there are guys out there now that are doing really, really great things. But it's like a burgeoning. The Vietnamese have the best drinking culture out of Japanese,
I was gonna say
arguably, but the Vietnamese are so celebratory in it because it's been so like
is it a little less buttoned down than like the Japanese style of
oh.
like it's a little more personable? Not that Japanese isn't
You want to
really
know how to
cool.
say cheers in Vietnamese? I'll show you. Một, hai, ba, jo. That means 1, 2, 3, drink.
Mot, right? So
Một, hai, ba, jo. And the crazy part about Vietnamese, and it's the one thing that like American people still like look at me weird for every once in a while, is Vietnamese because it's so hot and so humid there. If you've watched Forrest Gump, you know it's like one day it just started raining, and then it kept raining for like 9 months. So like it's literally like that. It monsoon season, not fucking around, 100 degrees, raining every day. And I'm wearing like Italian cut suits from Dubai, and I'm like riding my motorbike just in a raincoat poncho. I lived in like a Japanese hem alleyway where like I'd walk down and they've got frogs and like eels in like kiddie pools with like hoses in them. And I'm walking down the alleyways and I can hear all the Vietnamese lady goes, "Oh, dap chai," which means like handsome. And I'm like, I'm 6'4", so I'm really tall, and I'm really white and noticeable. And they're like, "Dap chai," and I'm like, "Oh my god, this is like so embarrassing." But I'm also like writing, but I'm not even living in like the expat area. I purposely lived in like deep parts. And again,
So you're one of these people that like is obsessed with the raw experience of that
yeah,
culture when you're.
dude, I posted something about it today. Listen, be a traveler, not a tourist.
Do you want to like so being a traveler versus a tourist means like immersing yourself in trying to respect the language?
It's the only way. If you want to travel as a bartender, you can't go there. Or if you want to be a beverage professional and you think you're going to go there to make money, in very few cases, in the positions that I got, maybe you're lucky, like me. I was very, very lucky. 9 times out of 10, if you want to go travel and bartend, be prepared to pack 2 bags, get rid of all the shit that you own, and don't dwell upon living in an Airbnb with somebody else's shit. Like,
With the amenities of America,
yeah,
saying like do it as the culture would do. If they have those things, sure, but if it's a little more rudimentary, if it's a little more rustic, live in that moment.
listen, don't, if you're going to travel and bartend, unless you're going to live there for the rest of your life and you're positive that you're going to do that, just pack 2 bags. I packed 2 bags. I lived out of 2 backpacks for 6 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's
And-
just funny the contrast between the two of us because as much as I love.
Yeah, you're not taking all that with you, bro.
Well, there's that. No, I've established that this, if I ever sold this house, which I don't think I ever would, I would sell it with like obviously I'd grab some of my like important bottles off, like the Port Ellen 35 and stuff, but I would sell it as is. It's like I would not. If I ever sold this house, it would be like take it as is. It's a high number. You're getting everything in it. But really, this will be my studio if I ever bought somewhere else. But I cannot picture a world where I don't work in Las Vegas. I can't picture it.
I beg to differ.
I love this town so much.
So do I.
It's like why now I respect more than you can imagine the person that goes, "Hey, this is an uncomfortable setting."
Here's a secret for you. You ready, Michael? I'm going to tell you something that's going to change your life.
I'm super ready.
Oh,
That seemed insincere, but it was just because I had to grab a bottle.
no, it's okay. No, I'm literally going to tell you something. And the only reason, again, why I'm here, Las Vegas will always be there for you.
100%. That is very true.
Listen, if you make it here, you can make it anywhere.
I mean, that's a Hallmark card right there.
No, dude, I'm telling you. And if you're sincere and you're an authentic person, nobody's going to forget about you.
I do feel that way strongly about because I can think of a million people that have taken care of me and they were being themselves, and it meant way more to me than the consummate professional, or the person that really treated me like, oh, he throws the lime in. Like either it doesn't, depending on the setting and the place, you know. I don't judge any bartender unless they're doing something that's obviously wrong.
Listen,
Like
you clearly care, dude. Like you're doing this, not getting paid for it because you're passionate about it, right?
yes.
One
We
day-
hope to
what-
someday be
what-
paid for this.
Yeah, soon. Maybe after
Yes.
this one.
We don't mind sponsors.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, speaking of which,
Kinson Loud Campari.
Ranch, our first product sponsor. They don't pay us to do this, but they gave me vodka that I will use in a very soon podcast. So here's the other thing, like vodka.
Lisa and Brian, if you hear me out there,
With vodka, to have an interesting vodka.
you're welcome for that like ability to like make that plug there real quick.
I mean, come on, I appreciate it. But with vodka, as a person, and I don't like to use the word mixologist, but a person that really cares about beverage and really wants to create an experience with cocktails,
Can we time out real quick?
yeah.
I heard you kind of go through this for a second in a previous podcast.
Uh-oh.
What do you consider yourself? Are you a bartender? Are you?
I am a bartender. I practice mixology, but you never need to ever consider me a mixologist because I believe a mixologist is a person that they are hyper focused on the drink. They might make you a better drink than a bartender, but they don't care about your experience as far as, oh, is your water, like maybe your water's full, but like they're not there for every aspect of your dining experience. They're there to put the drink in front of you, and they care so much that that's the best drink you've ever
Do
had.
you want to know my synonym for a mixologist?
I'm ready to hear it.
Mix monkey.
That's been said before. I've heard this term. And that's just because you're just the grease, right? Like you're just making it work.
Dude, Anybody can follow a recipe.
Make me a bicycle clown.
Correct.
Well,
Me a bicycle clown.
did you see there on one of our first podcasts, there was a comment that said, the guy said, what he's like,
It's like you're
just,
the help.
you're the help. Sit there and make my drink and be happy I'm there. I'm like, I mean, I am very happy you're here, but Jesus.
No, but he's
Extremely aggressive.
not wrong. Listen, there's an art. To me, what separates the whole business is not, listen, the world goes to shit. There'll be somebody who's making booze somewhere and pours it for someone else. They won't have mint. They won't have lime. They won't have a shaker, a spoon. They'll raw dog it with their hands. Just, there's intent and there's a ritual. Like, trust me, in Vietnam, they drink beer on ice, and I miss it so much. Like, they drink light lager beer because it's so hot and your beer gets so warm so fast in the glass. Put a big cylindrical ice cube, low surface area because they're smart, like right into a mug. And it's like every time you drink, you go, Mot Hai Ba Jo. And they're smart because they go, Mot Hai Ba Jo, and you have to drink the whole thing. You have to slam the whole. It's not a lot. It's probably like maybe like 6 ounces of beer, but then they come over and fill it back up.
And that's again, like that's, you drink that way. You're not sipping. It's not really a sipping process.
Not when you're hanging out with the boys. Definitely not.
Because we're gonna finish with this final mezcal Negroni. What would be your preferred mezcal? Now I know what my favorite mezcal is on here, but that doesn't mean that's the best one made for this drink.
Side note, dude, there's a liquor store in Austin that I went to. I can't remember the name right offhand, but you can Google best liquor store in Austin. I went in, they had this 4 rows full of mezcal. I've never seen, I went to Oaxaca and stayed in a mezcaleria, and I was like having a great time. Never in my life have I ever seen like that level of like $200, $300, $400, $500 bottles of mezcal, and I was like, I need to get the fuck out of here right now. They had like 1930s Fernet on the wall. I'm like, oof. I need to leave right now before I make really bad fight.
I'm gonna get a call from my banker.
Yeah,
like, we have some weird charges here.
Not even that. It's gonna be like
dive bar.
Your rent check bounced because you spent $10,000 at a liquor store.
So picking the mezcal. Now I do want to say, to your, like, where you go, if you go to Oaxaca and you go into some of these like quiet little bars that don't have like these big brand names everywhere. They got a lot of locally produced stuff. The reason the producer made this way is to hearken to the taped bottles that just say who made it and where it's from in the nearby city or town, and it's very homage to that. So I really do like this brand. And I have to say, Tepestate is probably my favorite varietal because it has like this green bell pepper and like jalapeno note with like almost like a nose of that like.
There's like 3 bottles back there, right?
Yeah, we'll definitely have a taste of the Oquendo, which is their most oldest varietal of mezcal. So that's another thing. Based on the varietal, it takes longer for it to mature. Whereas like Weber Blue, and I feel like that's probably part of the reason that it was popular is because some of these varietals take 10, 15 years. Oquendo takes over 15 years to mature, I believe. Tepestate is somewhere in between Weber Blue and Oquendo.
Dude, I'm telling you straight up, I've quit brown spirits and went exclusively to mezcal after I went to Austin. My buddy Ivan, who I went with, is like a tequila and mezcal aficionado. And this guy, like, I drink like maybe a half gallon of mezcal in a day and a half. I woke up each day.
Treacherous.
No hangover. None.
We need to fact check that.
You can fact check it. I'm telling you, never in my life have I ever been like, oh, I'm old, can't drink brown liquor anymore. Gray hair showing, and it's like, oh, now I figured it out.
Wait, you stopped drinking brown liquor because of how it made you feel?
Oh, 100%. Dude, if I drink
congeners?
Yeah, dude, 100%. If I drink whiskey, doesn't matter if I'm drinking Willet Pot Still Family Rye, I have 3 shots of that, I'm going to wake up stinking and hating my life. No offense to Willet Rye Pot Still Family Reserve. Absolutely incredible
IPAs.
rye whiskey.
IPAs and champagne. If I
Oh,
get
dude,
wasted on those
dude,
items, I am.
Hazy. Well, that's my problem. Is like I like hazy IPAs and I like those and rye whiskey with like. Listen, you only have to distill to what 120 proof. Isn't that the rule? 120.
Specifics on that, I would say in the 120s, but I wouldn't know. Like they always have like a 0.5 or like, well, the proof will be a full whole number, but then the percentage is a 0.5. So I'm not that great at remembering those.
Well, I think it's part of the law. It's like I think it's like in the 120. So
I'm not a
again,
lawyer.
ladies and gentlemen,
okay?
I've been out of the game for a long time. Not a long time.
I'm in the game. I still don't know the answer officially.
There's like the bourbon law, right? It's like, isn't vodka's like 190, right? And then they water down from there, or like neutral grain spirits like 190, and they water down from there.
Again, you're really putting me on blast with these specific numbers here.
That's my cocktail nerdy stuff. Hey Jamie, can you pull that up? I'm sure it's in there, and if you look at the 4 laws of bourbon, and they do that. You didn't announce.
Well, we are out of time, so I had to start making our Mezcal Negroni pretty fast. And now I've talked about Negroni a lot. We talked a little bit about the Americano and the Mito on the last podcast that'll come out right before yours with Chef Nicole Bryson. So it's funny that you guys are friends because you preceded each other in podcasts.
the
But
best, by the way.
amazing. Really, really, truly one of the best in the city.
Wait,
and doing.
Over there.
She is here. She is here. She is in studio. I want to say a couple cool things about the Mezcal Negroni. So early on in the 2000s, it became like craft cocktails, Negronis were coming back into popularity. Let's say a real quick cheers.
Cheers.
And it was really brought into fruition at the Mayahuel bar. I believe that's in New York. And that was in like 2009. And that's Phil Ward. And then also at the same relative time, Death & Co. was using Mezcal a lot in products. And there was a couple bartenders there that I'm slipping on their names. But they said that it's basic, like the Negroni is the Mr. Potato Head of cocktails that you can use, you change the vermouth. Okay, it's a different cocktail, different flavor. You change the base spirit, different cocktail, different flavor. You could have the same base spirit, but have a completely different expression. Whereas producers kind of smoky, and mezcals traditionally are smoky, but there's a lot of mezcal like Kimosabe, and I would even say Varas isn't very smoky, and you could use
the white label El Silencio, like super mixable.
Agreed. I considered using that too, because honestly,
That's my favorite, like super mixable, like medium range tequila right now.
yeah, absolutely. And honestly, Vita Mezcal has been getting a bad rep, and I know they've changed a few things lately, but I still like the Vita from Del Maguey.
Yeah.
I like their as like a standard, you know what you're getting. It's the amount of smoke you expect. Now, I don't know. I'm very informed on additive free and all that with tequila. I don't know how legit Vita's doing. And if you ask certain bartenders now, as opposed to 10 years ago, Vita, they'll say, oh, I don't like Vita anymore. But they still like their,
All those trends are
the
kinda
one, the
weird.
chicken, the pechuga, and stuff like that. And as we finish, I did want to, and the producer, I don't know what's going to happen with them because they have changed hands. They're changing hands in the process of that or something like that. So you never know what's going to happen. It could improve a brand or it could hurt a brand. So these are actually when I was applying for the job at the producer, and Tony DeMaria, who was episode 2, I believe, he beat me for that job. So a
I've
little
got so
point
many
of contention.
Got so many good stories about that guy.
And just as our final send-off, as we enjoy our Mezcal Negronis, I also wanted you to taste a little bit of this Tepestate that, again, I hope that it stays exactly the same and that they don't alter it at all, because this is truly one of my favorite Mezcal. And this is definitely meant for sipping. It's not meant for mixing unless you have that kind of money to blow and you want something really cool.
Done.
But
Listen, if you have rule number 1, if you're mixing spirits, keep your really nice stuff for the tasting. Like my biggest pet peeve is like when somebody's like, "Can I make a Negroni with like a really bougie ass gin?" I'm like,
Why?
"Dude, you're putting Campari in it. Like You're not gonna.
Why? Yeah. Why? It's like, why are you wearing a dress to a to a freaking
Well,
to a house party?
no. I wouldn't put it that way because I wear all black on purpose every day. Because listen, it dresses up, dresses down. Like you're always going to be the best looking person in the room, no matter where it's at. The biggest thing is just don't bastardize it.
Right. Yeah, and you don't need to reinvent the wheel. The things that have like the Negroni's been around and been relevant, even though it had like obviously its time where it was kind of disappeared from the zeitgeist. But these cocktails, like the old fashioned, is truly really the first cocktail ever. After because the punch was made. He didn't enjoy any of the nuance. He just shot it back.
Didn't have very much in there.
That's true. I know. I figured, we're probably going to go have drinks after somewhere. Who knows? I wanted us to end on a high note before I get a little too imbibed.
Well, listen, that's you, not me.
Yeah, you're a world traveler, sir. You've drank with the best of them.
Seasoned veteran.
That's right. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
David, thank you so much.
Real quick before we
Please.
finish this all out, this is like the first like video podcast I've done. I've done a lot of interviews and videos and stuff. Coming from somebody who's hyper passionate about the industry and like very passionate about teaching people what you're doing means quite a bit, dude. Big fan of it. I think that it's super important for people like you to have a voice and like give voices to other people and tell stories. And I think that what you're doing is like, if everybody out there knew half as much as I do about the other people who have been on your podcast and like all the stories and like amazing talent that's like involved in all of that, it would change like the complete understanding. So I think maybe people should pause if they hear this part of the podcast, go back, research a little bit about, Google the names that were here and Google you or like find out about like where people have been before, because but dude, but it's super important because you're trying to shine a light on like what, listen, if I had to ask you, who's your hero in this whole, we all have the same hero, right?
I can't say one name because there's like 5.
But we all look at Anthony Bourdain and we go, maybe one day.
Honestly, this might shock you. There are names that come up far before that man's name.
Really?
I apologize to any Anthony Bourdain fan
That's
that
just
no
me.
longer
Sorry,
wants it.
that's just me.
I just have known and been privileged to have the opportunity in this town to get some love that I didn't even
No,
deserve.
I mean somebody who's been the like public eye, who is
I
like
know. I'm
the expose person.
I would say several names though, and now
before
now,
his.
Guy Fieri for sure.
and now you're saying, well, I've never had an interaction with.
No. I'm saying somebody who's trying to display.
Just do it the right way.
No, but either right or like he was the biggest name. He was on CNN, dude. There's
He's like a trailblazer. Like really
he's
no.
terrible. Listen,
Makes sense.
he was, but what you're trying to do is like you're doing it in this market first, but you've also done it with like guys like Anthony Jamison, Nicole. Like you've done it with people who've come from all over the place. And what most people don't realize about like your podcast is like you're in. I don't give a shit what anybody else says. Las Vegas is the mecca of hospitality. I've been all around the world. I've seen it. I've been to Dubai. I've been to London. I've been to Rome. Like,
It reminds me, I wanted so much more to talk about other places, but damn it, you're coming back.
yeah, how about this? I'll fly you down to Austin and we'll do this shit in our cocktail bar, the Powder Room, ATX.
Heavy nods from Kyler. We're getting approval.
Listen, I'm telling you, it would,
Is that open now?
yeah, it's open. Dude, I don't know if you guys know what a killer city.
I need to find out.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Listen, I moved down on.
I'm going to Joe Rogan's club.
Dude, I already
I
went.
want-
It's so good.
And he's a aspiring comedian as well. If you haven't told, like he has the
Dude,
one-liner.
listen, I'm going to invite you guys all down. and you guys can just stay at my place. I have a nice, my rent in Seattle was really high.
You were living in Japan, Dubai, so it's like you're like,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like,
what's
oh,
this rent?
yeah, this is
They're
nice.
complaining about inflation.
Yeah, but back to the point, dude, you're doing a great service to the industry. And I don't think anybody's told you that on the podcast. And it's a absolute honor. Dude, you fucking texted me like because I made a Facebook post and we just happened to be friends. And I wanted nothing to do more than promote the industry, like be a guest for you, and I really hope, because especially because I've got a lot of friends outside of the country, I would really hope that I get to tag all of them and that you get the following that you deserve, because man, it's so important to advocate for like positivity in this industry, because man, I've lost a lot of friends who've had, and I've gone through it as well. I've lost a lot of friends who've had, you give a lot to guests, and sometimes you go home and you don't get a lot back. So I think it's super important that you're giving a lot back to the industry. So I think that, dude, you're just not, who else does this?
I'm gonna cut him off.
Yep.
On that note, thank you.
Cheers, my
That
man.
humbles me. Thank you.
Spot in Austin. What was it again?
The powder room.
Powder room, and that's so that you'll be there.
I'll be there for
Sep-
6 months, and then we're doing the Austin Sports Club with Kevin Durant.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And you'll be involved in both.
I'm involved in the top end of the company. So yeah.
Amazing. Yeah.
I'll be all around. Eric Kemp is there, and Jason Ellison and Grace Chow. Like, dude, it's a Las Vegas, LA, Florida conglomerate of people who just really care about like taking the tweezers and squeezing the lime.
Being annoying.
No, not that.
Thank you for your kind words.
Yeah.
David English, everyone, please go check out his spots in Austin. Should be, I can't wait to do the podcast with you there. Thank you very much. Thank you, Kyler. Thank you, Chef Nicole, for bringing.
I really hope that he thinks I'm joking, but I'm totally going to make it happen.
Oh,
dude.
we've got a portable setup.
We're ready.
Yeah, we're coming.
Good. Well, you guys get to stay with me and hang out. Dude, the bar, sick.
Let's go.
All right.
You'll see that soon.
Cheers, guys.